We are just about back to really getting golf going full stream. So we are slowly going to be able to start transitioning to outdoors and starting getting some practice going in out there. So going to do a little something different today. All the last videos have been kind of touching on putting. Kind of want to let you guys go about that, kind of get your putting grooved in. But what I want to talk about today is something, basically a couple books that I like to read. I know it's not the most exciting of topics, but I feel like these two books can really help you understand your game and different ways you can go about practicing. Because once you're able to understand the information that these two books provide, it can make you rethink your approach to not only the game of golf, but how you practice, ways that you can better improve and kind of develop your skills. So, first book I want to talk about, and before I do get into these, do want to let you know I'm not sponsored by any of these guys. I have actually never met any of these guys. These are just two books that I've read that I found to be very, very informative and have helped me kind of continue to develop my game and kind of, I guess, influence how I coach my students. So let's get to it. So the first book I want to talk about is The Practice Manual, The Ultimate Guide for Golfers. Now, at first glance, you may see, oh, perfect. This is a great book to help me, find some drills that I can work on and just different techniques. Not exactly that at all. This is actually a very good book on how we learn as golfers in ways that our minds, our brains process the information in ways that we can kind of self-diagnose and understand how we better learn the techniques and the skills that we are trying to develop. The first chapter goes off on the ball flight laws. That is such a huge, huge fact of knowing to help you improve your game. If you know exactly why the ball is doing what it's doing from a club path to club face perspective, it gives you a better idea of, okay, what's actually now happening in the rest of my swing. But from there, it kind of goes on to different ways of practicing of, I guess, I want to say, different kind of metrics that you can measure, ways that you can see if what you're working on is actually improving or if it's plateauing or if you're actually taking a step back. All this information is very, very important to you as a golfer to help continue learning your game. As soon as we stop learning, we stop improving. And no two players are going to be identical, so it's really important for you as a golfer yourself to identify which ways are going to help you, I guess, implement the changes, the techniques the best. So that's the practice manual. It's written by Adam Young, and I think you can get it off of Amazon for, I don't know, $25-30. I forget what it was. But, it's about a few hundred, 400 pages long, just under 4. But it's really, really informative. I definitely suggest giving it a read. And I think once you're done putting it down, you're going to kind of have some new information to kind of help you develop your game. So let's talk about book number 2. So the second book that I bought, it's not a hard copy. I actually don't have it in my hands. I bought it digitally on my iPhone. It's in my library under books. And that book is actually called Every Stroke Counts. It's written by Mark Brody. And if you are a numbers guy, this book is for you. This book goes over the introduction of the strokes gain stats. If you think about back into the 90s, when they're talking about players and how many fairways they hit, how many greens they hit, so on and so forth, they talked about, okay, how many putts per round did they have? Well, Mark kind of came up with the idea like that doesn't really give a true true representation of who the best putters are out there. And it introduces the beginning of strokes gain stats and kind of goes over the importance of each individual stat, be it off the tee, second shots or approach shots, putts, things along those natures. And it helps you understand what you should, I guess, expect out of your game. One of the most interesting stats out there that you probably have heard or may have seen someone else talk about it is, the strokes gained putting and what percentage the PGA Tour pros make from 8 feet, and that's 50%. Those are the best players in the world that make 50% of their putts from 8 feet. So if you're a 15-20 handicap, what are your expectations on how many you should make? So this book kind of goes over all the stats, how it can be incorporated into your game, so you then can now kind of change your focus on where you may be losing strokes in comparison to other parts of your games. And that just helps you get a better feel for how your game is and where you should be, focusing your attention, and I guess keeping a realistic perspective of, how your game measures in relation to others. So, if you're at 25 feet away and you just miss and, I can't believe that didn't go in. Well, what were the percentages of you actually making that putt? So that's something that's very interesting, because I know when I was done reading it, it gave me a whole nother perspective on what I should be working on, as well as where the most important strokes are saved and gained in a round of golf. And it's actually a very interesting read. So I don't want to give away any secrets, because I want you guys to find out for yourselves. It's a very simple, straight read, but the information that's in it is just really, really good for you. And again, it's another way to help you turn over another leaf and see the game in another light. And I think with the combination of these two books, it's going to give you a new perspective on how you should practice and how you learn. I always say that when you're out there, you want to practice with a purpose. Don't just go to beat balls. Otherwise, that's just a cardiovascular exercise. We can do that a number of other ways. When you go to the range or you go to the practice green, I want you to be there with a set plan, with a goal in mind. It's not about hitting every single shot straight and to have the guys down or women down the line going, ooh, man, that guy's good. No, you want to be there to really implement and work on what you're there to work on. So again, this video, nothing too crazy, not very technical. It's just something that I felt was, kind of good to get out there, because I found that these two books are really informative to me. They impressed me a lot that, again, I use it with my students and ways to coach them and showing how that they should practice. So I hope you're able to get the same out of these two books that I did. And hopefully in the next week or so, we're able to transition to, instead of, my basement, we're able to get actually outside on a practice range, or at least into a hitting cage studio somewhere, so we can move on to some new and more exciting videos. If not, we'll be back right down here in the basement. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you on the course in no time. Take care.